Hey everyone, it's good to see you guys. So I just want to jump on a live here real quick and share with you some of the thoughts that I've been having around conflict in relationship, just from previous experiences in my own life, but also some of the lives of my clients. Because conflict is something that I see a lot of, and some people get triggered by it. Other people actually enjoy conflict, and then other individuals just see it as a necessary means to create a deeper relationship. So first, I just want to dispel some of the myths around conflict. The first thing is that a lot of individuals have a relationship to conflict that it's bad or that it's wrong, and that's not necessarily true. I grew up in a home where everyone was always like, you always maintain the peace and keep the peace, but there was always conflict. I had three other brothers, two younger sisters. I mean, there was always conflict going on somewhere in the household, and it was very normal and natural. A lot of the times, though, what happens in relationship is when people start having conflict, it's because needs aren't being met. And either one person isn't aware of their needs that they need to have met, or that other individual doesn't know how to communicate that they have needs, whether they're emotional needs, whether they're financial needs, whatever it is. And this is why, if you've been following me for a while, I always say win your independence in every aspect of your life, financially and emotionally, before you really get deep into a relationship. Now, obviously, relationships teach us, but I think the best basis or foundation for any relationship is to be able to have emotional independence, financial independence, and really knowing yourself, and then getting into relationship. You can do it the hard way and learn about yourself through relationship, but you don't actually have to do it that way. You can do other ways as well too. So when it comes to conflict, how do we look at it? Well, conflict is really a means of getting your needs met. It's always a means of getting your needs met. Now, that being said, where it goes wrong is when someone doesn't understand what their needs are, whatever that need might be, whether it's emotional needs, whether it's financial needs, whatever it may be. When someone doesn't understand what their needs are, or they don't know how to communicate and ask for their needs, that's what causes people to start getting upset. So like any form of anger, anger is a communication. All emotions are forms of communication, whether we realize it or not. So anger is a form of communication, saying like, see me, hear me, I'm not being listened to, so I'm going to get louder and raise my voice, and then the other person gets triggered or reacts to it. But really, any aspect of emotional communication is any emotion is a communication in and of itself, whether we realize this or not. It took me the first 26 years of my life to understand that anger was nothing more than me actually communicating that I wasn't feeling heard or listened to. Most people don't know that about themselves, because we're not really taught emotional intelligence growing up. So it's really important to ask yourself, if you're having any conflict in your relationships, what's the nature of that conflict? Is it a good conflict in the sense that someone is communicating their needs and they need to have those needs met? If so, that's a great conflict to have. And you can go into it. So if someone comes to me and they're angry and they're upset, I immediately think, wow, what's going on with this person? How can I help them? Like, they're clearly upset or something, or they don't feel heard or listened to or something like this. And so then I go into it, and then naturally when they feel heard or listened to, that anger subsides, because the anger is a form of communication of not being felt, heard, or listened to. That's all crime is at a societal level. It's just people communicating that they don't feel heard, listened, or listened to, or validated. So good forms of conflict are conflict where our needs are being expressed. That's a great form of conflict. A bad form of conflict is when you've tried to communicate your needs for a very long time, and the other person either doesn't have the space for it, they're not willing to give you the space to meet those needs, or they're very just closed off and like, phew. So if they're closed off from meeting your needs, or they can't show up in the way that you need them to, and you get louder and louder and louder and more angry, well, there's nothing you can really do about that other than leave or communicate what it is that you want, and that's it. Some people don't have the capacity, or they're just not willing to meet a certain need. And what happens, I see in relationship a lot, and then when I reflect back on all my other past relationships, I see this. Um, there were so many times where I was communicating something, what I needed, and then that person could help me, and they like reciprocated that need, and I was like, cool, I feel validated, I feel listened to, I feel heard. And then there was other times where they just didn't have the space for it, and then we would communicate about it. We would go back and forth eventually, and then there wouldn't be much of an issue. So conflict in any relationship, it always comes down to having a certain need met or not being met. Now, the issue becomes when there's perpetual conflict, which we call gridlock in the relationship coaching community or industry. When you and your partner are at a gridlock, what a gridlock is when you have certain needs, and when the other person wants that need to be fulfilled, yet they can't get it fulfilled by their partner because it's against their partner's value systems. I'll give you a perfect example of this. I never thought life is there's so many different shades of it. I was coaching one individual, and this was about a year and a half ago. They wanted that their partner to do something sexual for them. And it was like way out of their partner's comfort zone, totally against their partner's value system. And so their partner was like, nope, I'm not doing that. So then the other individual who was asking for this sexual need started getting like really frustrated and upset, and was like, but I really want this. And if I don't get it, I'm going to go start looking for it for somewhere else. And so then they actually started getting in an argument or a fight. And so that's a form of perpetual conflict, or what we call as a gridlock. And if you ever get caught up in a gridlock in your relationship, it's simply just because someone has a need, and that need can only be fulfilled. Well, not only, but that need wants to be fulfilled by your significant other or your partner, but your partner isn't willing to fulfill or meet that need simply just because because it's against their value system. And so if you haven't seen my video on how to get around gridlocks, check that out. That's on my YouTube channel. There's some really good stuff there on overcoming gridlock. But the point here is if you ever get caught up in perpetual conflict, you're always coming back to the same argument over and over and over again. It's simply just because you have a value system that is getting in the way of your partner getting the needs that they want met. And that's completely normal. I mean, that happens in a lot of different areas of my life. When I look back at all my relationships, I can see where that happened, where I was like, oh, wow, I was asking for something and that wasn't in my girlfriend's value system at the time. So she didn't appreciate it. And then I felt like she wasn't showing up as the person as I needed or wanted her to be. So if you're ever getting into a lot of conflict and it's just the same issue over and over again, that's completely normal. It's a part of relationship, but there's a way around it. There's a way around it. And all it is recognizing what your value system is, and then recognizing what need your partner is trying to get met, and then figuring out a way that they can have that need met without you compromising on your value system. Does that make sense, you guys? So that was all I wanted to share with you. A really short video on conflict. So ultimately, guys, the final note I'm going to end this on is conflict is a good thing if it's bringing you closer and if it's done from the right space. I always, I have my military conditioning, and in the Marine Corps, there's always conflict. There's always like people are just straight up honest with each other, and you work things out right away. And that allowed us to be really forward moving and fast and make things happen quickly. There's nothing held back at any point. You just speak your truth and then you work it out. So conflict actually allows us to grow closer as human beings, but you want to do it the right way. If you're sharing your opinion from a place of resentment, or you're sharing your need from a place of upset or passive aggressiveness, then that's poison to the relationship, and that's not a good type of conflict. A great type of conflict is, hey, this is my needs, these are my desires. Can you meet them? Okay, you can't. Well, we need to figure out how to meet these needs together. And if that happens in a relationship, that's actually really healthy. So conflict can be healthy in the sense that if it's coming from the right place, you'll have a deeper connection. It always creates a deeper connection. In the military, we were always trained to share our views with each other internally within our squads. And there was always a lot of tension, but that tension would subside really quickly because we would share our honest thoughts, our truths, never with the higher ups. That didn't work out. But with each other, we always shared everything that we were really thinking and feeling. And that gave rise to a lot of conflict internally. But that internal conflict, once we worked through it emotionally, everyone was closer and there was a bonding there. So don't be afraid of conflict. Just make sure you do it the right way. Anytime that you have conflict, make sure you do it the right way. If you don't express your true opinions in life, if you don't express your true opinions or thoughts in relationship, then what's going to happen is that relationship will start to emotionally fall apart because you're not investing your true thoughts or your true energy into it. So it's really important to give yourself an honest foot to stand on and speak your truths. Do it in the best way possible in terms of communication. Do it in the most elegant way so it's actually received. If you've been following my work, you know I'm a huge proponent of the platinum rule. There's the golden rule, which is treat others how you want to be treated. And then there's the platinum rule, which is communicate to others how they need to be communicated to in order to create the connection, which I love. And I think that's incredibly valuable. So when it comes to sharing your true thoughts or your true feelings in a relationship, that's important to do that, even if you think there might be a rise for conflict. The reason being is you'll actually have a deeper connection, a more authentic connection with that other person when you do that, or the relationship will fall apart. And that's okay too, because it wasn't a deep, authentic connection. It depends on what you're going for, quantity or quality. So what we really want to do here is speak our truths, but in ways that allow us to honor ourselves, but also honor and respect the other person that we're in relationship with. And this goes for romance, this goes for business, this goes for friendship, this goes for all aspects of life. Conflict is not something that should be avoided. It's not something that should be chased. Conflict should be a natural uprising from speaking your truth and really sharing with individuals what your heart really wants to share and what it really wants to say. And remember, follow the platinum rule. Not treat others how you want to be treated. Communicate to others how they need to be communicated to in order to create the connection. That's going to save you a lot of time. Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to go to some questions here. So, hey, Jenny, good to see you. This person says, I feel emotional people are getting paid to express anger in the streets this past week. So many being set up to project their anger unhealthily. Look, if you got anger rising up, it's always been there. It's just that it's been repressed for whatever reason, or maybe you hid it away. Own the anger and own it fully and ask yourself, where's this anger coming from and what's this really about? And when you own it in that way and you ask yourself, where's this really coming from, you'll move through that energy really quickly. It's really that simple. We'll go to the next comment. So discovery of this wisdom often comes in the middle of night or right after the conflict. Yeah, absolutely. Most of the times, guys, eventually you can get to a point where conflict doesn't happen too much in your life just because you know the dynamics of conflict and you know the dynamics of communicating in effective ways and listening in effective ways. So eventually you can get to that point, but it might take a little while for you to get to that stage of development. And if you want to get to that stage of development, well, then feel free to reach out and connect, because that is a part of my coaching work. Beautiful. What else do we got here? So in summary, everyone, I'm just going to finish up. Platinum rule: communicate to others how they need to be communicated to in order to create the connection. 2, conflict isn't always bad. It's not always either good either. Conflicts should serve a functional purpose, and it should serve the purpose of growing closer to that other individual, or letting the connection go completely because it's no longer serving its purpose. Beautiful. That's all I got. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. If you like this, feel free to check out my YouTube channel. I got a lot more content there. Check out the description box below. I got some cool stuff there as well. If you want to sign up for live coaching with Laura and I, we're doing the Sacred Relationship series as well, and we're doing that live coaching on a weekly basis, so be checking that out. Other than that, that's all I have. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you soon. I have some interviews coming up next week, so be looking out for those. That's all I got. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.